Hallo und herzlich willkommen zu diesem neuen Video. Mein Name ist Patrick Krauser, ich bin Autor, Blogger und ich bin Misophoniker. Und für das heutige Video habe ich mir etwas ganz Besonderes einfallen lassen. Thomas Dozier ist bei mir zu Gast im Interview gewesen und ja, ich wünsche dir auf jeden Fall viel Spaß und viel Erfolg mit dem Video. Dein Patrick. Yeah, could you briefly introduce yourself for those who don't know you in my community?
Sure. So I'm Tom Dozier. I'm a behaviorist. This is a second career for me. I spent my first 30 years as an electrical engineer, manufacturing engineer, engineering manager.
Okay.
And then I had a chance to do something different. And so I went into behavior analysis, which is a science of human behavior. And I was doing parent coaching, parent training, parenting skills, you know, the 3-year-old's hitting the baby. What do we do? 12-year-old won't do homework. Nobody's listening. And I was introduced to misophonia in 2012 by a mom who had this 11-year-old, 12-year-old daughter who had this unknown, incurable hearing disorder called misophonia that was going to ruin her life. There was no treatment for it. And, but the daughter had auditory, visual, and olfactory triggers.
Oh, okay.
And so I go, well, that cannot be a defect in your hearing system if you're having three different sensory modalities of triggers, right? So it has to be a reflex behavior, and surely there's information about reflex behaviors that we can use to address this problem. So I'm a kind of a fix-it guy. I like to solve problems. That's what I did for my whole career as an engineer. So here was a problem. Here was this unknown thing called misophonia.
Okay.
And I thought, hey, I can do something with that. And so I just started trying to apply the science of behavior to misophonia. And luckily I was a blank slate, right? I heard it was this hearing disorder. Turn my little light on here. But it was something more, right? It wasn't just a hearing disorder. And so I thought I had the time. I was working as a parenting coach, a lot of volunteer work. I had the time to do it, so I just started looking at misophonia.
Okay, great. So this was also the motivation for writing the book, Understanding and Overcoming Misophonia. That was for me personally really a game changer. So thank you very much for this book. Yeah.
Yeah, the motivation was to share the information that once I started finding out something about misophonia, then I wanted to get it out. I wanted to share it because there were many people saying, one, we don't understand it. 2, we have to live with it forever. And I thought, no, I don't. That's not what I see at all. I see some very clear things about misophonia, and so I wanted to share it.
Okay, great. So I read your book 5 years ago, and yeah, it helped me a lot. So thank you again. And you are a representative of counter conditioning. And my question is regarding this: how does counter conditioning work, and what happens in the human brain?
So can I back up and give a preface to that? A preface question?
Yes.
The preface question is, what is misophonia?
Yeah.
Because what you experience as misophonia is you hear a sound, and I apologize to anybody who's pointing triggers you, that you hear a sound and you have this extreme emotional response, and then you have these horrible overall feelings, and you've got to get away. You have to make it stop. You have to run away. You feel like you need to attack the person. So that misophonia seems like an extreme emotional reaction to a common sound. What my research has shown, and actually I was blessed to have been shown that misophonia includes a physical flinch. It includes a muscle clench, a shoulder clench, something. I had this young girl, 10-year-old, and we were trying to do a counter conditioning exercise, which is basically having a very positive state and a weak trigger. And so I'd ask her what physical reflex she has. And as far as I can tell, everyone with misophonia has a physical flinch that's triggered by the sound. So there's a sound, it triggers a physical flinch, different in everyone. And then that physical flinch is like a little taser to your body, and that triggers the extreme emotions. So I asked this girl, what emotions do you have? And she says, none. I'm sorry. I asked her what physical reaction she had, and she says, I don't have a physical reaction. I just feel rage. She was very insistent. And so this was experimental days. I had a recording of her brother chewing, had it on my audio editor so I could clip it down to a very specific amount, adjust the volume to get a very specific volume, had the massage table laid out behind me here. Her mom was rubbing her shoulder back and relaxing her. And when the little crunch happened, we saw that. We could see her. She was moving over a quarter of an inch. And after we finished this time of relaxation and the small triggers, which is how you create counter conditioning, I said, did you feel anything physically? She goes, yeah, I felt it in my shoulders, or my upper arms, and I felt it in my legs, and we hadn't seen the legs part. And I said, well, what emotions did you have? She says, oh, none. That you have the trigger, the flinch, the emotional explosion. And so she was having the flinch without the emotional explosion because it was a very, very small trigger. So I've talked about this for a lot of years, and people have said, Tom, it's not that simple. But I believe misophonia really is that simple. I believe misophonia is the simplest of conditions that you could call a psychological condition.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, for me as well.
And it is simply, an accidental flinch that has developed from your autonomic nervous system's ability to learn reactions. It's known as Pavlovian conditioning. So back to your question, what is counter conditioning? So counter conditioning is not standard exposure therapy for extinction, where they say you have a spider phobia, we're going to put a picture of the spider on the wall, and then you're going to feel the kind of the fear response, and we'll just hold it there until that fear response comes down, and then we'll use a bigger picture, and then the fear response comes up and hold it, and it comes down. Counter conditioning is where you have a very positive, happy, engaged activity or a super relaxing activity, and then you get a little trigger bump gone. And the way I like to call it your lizard brain, your autonomic nervous system, your brain stem, the way that little lizard brain works is it tries to reproduce, to copy whatever it sees you doing. So if your fist clenches in your shoulder, your reflexes in your shoulders, then you may hear a trigger and your lizard brain goes bump to your shoulders and you go, oh, I hate that, and stop. And so the lizard brain says, I heard the sound, I hit the muscle, and now I see the muscle tighten a little bit more and then relax, but it tightened, which means that what the lizard brain did was what I was supposed to do, because that's what you would have done without me. And it's just trying to copy what we do. So with counter conditioning, if it's crunch, boom, relax, or crunch, boom, tickle, move, weird, then it's not seeing that extra tightening. And so it goes, I'm doing the wrong thing. It would be like, so you get very relaxed, trigger, boom, relax. Lizard brain goes, that wasn't right. I'll do a little bit less. Trigger, bump, relax. Still too much. Trigger, bump, relax. Trigger, I give up. And in 20 to 30 minutes, your lizard brain will back down and stop zapping you. If you can truly keep that muscle relaxed, which generally is very hard to do. But it depends on the muscle. Now, counter conditioning for a person who has a breath related reflex. I worked with a man last night, and he hadn't determined where his physical reflexes were when we met the first time, because I couldn't make little sniffs or make little sounds to get a very you need a tiny trigger to detect that reflex. And he determined that his triggers was holding his breath. He felt it in his chest. And so if you have a little trigger and you feel it in your chest, then that's probably your lizard brain is trying to stop you from breathing or make you breathe in.
Okay.
And so he felt it in his chest, and then he tried slow, steady breathing, and it reduced the sensation. So, okay, that's the way of determining it's in his chest. Now, the lizard brain would then hear a trigger, a noise from outside, sound through the walls, very common trigger. And then your lizard brain goes, and it kind of locks those breathing muscles, and then you kind of go, oh no, and tighten them up. And the lizard brain gets the feedback that I'm doing the right thing. So if this is the breathing muscles, and you get a trigger and you keep going, trigger and you keep going, trigger and you keep going, the lizard brain says, I'm trying to lock that breathing, but it keeps going. I'm doing the wrong thing, and it backs down.
Okay.
And so your lizard brain is observing you for maybe 2.5 seconds after a trigger. And in that time, it's learning either I did the right thing, I did the right thing, but not hard enough. And that's why misophonia gets progressively worse. It usually starts hitting you harder and harder. Or I did the wrong thing and I need to adjust and back off. And it just backs down, and that's counter conditioning. Now, the happier you are, the more excited you are, the better counter conditioning will work. So I worked with the mom whose husband had this vocal, maybe we should tick of saying all the time. Drove her crazy. Triggered her. Let's be precise. And she said he called on a trip, and we were buying this cabin up in the Sierras of California, up in the mountains, which in California, that could be a cottage, a one-room building, or it could be a multi-million-dollar mansion. Don't know what it was in our case. She said, but we talked about what we would do with our cabin for an hour, and it never triggered me.
Okay.
Because she was very positive. She was engaged in the conversation. And so having something positive going on while you're being triggered, it didn't really counter condition her because she wasn't aware of the trigger. It wasn't triggering her. But having something very positive allows that reflex to just die out. And that's counter conditioning. So it's very gentle. It needs to be very gentle. When I talk to someone who's been doing counter conditioning with the Misophonia Trigger Tamer app, and it's not working, a lot of times I say, on a scale of 0 to 10, how strong is it? And they say, well, a 5. Okay, then do you have any like worry or thoughts that, uh-oh, here comes a trigger? And they said, no. I said, do you have any residual reaction that it doesn't last a few seconds after the trigger? And they go, yeah, maybe 5. Well, that's not bump gone. That's bump gone. And the lizard brain says, I'm still doing the right thing. And that is not counter conditioning.
Okay. Okay. So very, very, detailed answer. Thank you very much. I read also a lot about progressive muscle relaxation. Is this something that can go together with the counter conditioning, or what is your?
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. I had a transformative treatment experience.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 2018 at the American Psychological Association meeting. I was working with, I was manning the booth there with Nate Mitchell, the treasurer of Misophonie Institute. He's a psychologist. He's also was a professor, and talking about over the summer, he had a lot of individual clients, but he's going to have to taper his practice down for when school was going to start. I said, "Oh, you're not taking new clients?" And he says, "Well, I'm not taking new clients except for misophonia clients because they're easy." And I thought, I find them very hard. Why do you find them easy? Because I had taught him about what misophonia was. So he had taken what I had taught him and just was doing it much better. And it looked like the intensity of the work that I was asking people to engage in wasn't enough to make it move forward quick enough to get the right results. So I'd always believed in progressive muscle relaxation as a way of learning to relax your muscles on demand. It actually, progressive muscle relaxation, which I now call muscle training, relaxation training, is a well-established way of developing the skill, not the knowledge, the skill, the neurological connections to relax your muscles on demand. So I went back to my practice in California, Livermore, California, and I had a couple of people who were in desperate situations, and we did more intensive muscle relaxation. I asked people to do 1 hour a day. And with the Misophonia muscle relaxation training app, with that app, that's 3 to 4 sessions a day spread throughout the day. And in a week, you start to develop the skill of relaxing on demand. And relaxing after a trigger reduces your anger burst. But relaxing and staying relaxed before a trigger, then this is your muscle. It'd be crunch, boom, relax, crunch, boom, relax, crunch, and it enables counter conditioning. So I'm a very strong fan of progressive muscle relaxation because it works so well. I have paid to have an app called Misophonia Muscle Relaxation Training. So it's the yellow or gold head of the Misophonia apps produced. And so now I use that in the treatment of people with misophonia. So just as a plug, it's a free app. There are paid features that cost $2 a month. And you get that free for a week to try it without giving me a credit card or anything. And you can try the app out. But it really develops the ability to relax on demand. Now, a lot of people with misophonia have anxiety. Progressive muscle relaxation was developed as a treatment for anxiety. When you say, I feel tense, that's the same as saying, my muscles are tense. And if you will just relax your muscles, it will reduce the anxiety, the tension, and you will be less susceptible to misophonia triggers. So it's a key part for for all adults, most older teens, in terms of helping them be ready to do counter conditioning.
Okay, great. So for me, it works as well. Very good. So the progressive muscle relaxation. Yeah, I like that too. Okay. So let's go to the strategies that we can use for the daily life. What are the best, in your opinion, what are the best coping strategies for outside noises like car doors, bass from the neighborhood, sneezing, sniffing, something like this?
Okay, so let's distinguish a couple of things. First off, if you try to isolate yourself from all triggers, you will destroy your life.
Agree.
So complete avoidance doesn't work. But misophonia triggers increase in severity with experience, because you have that reaction of your body after a trigger, and the little spots behind your eyebrow, which is your emotional reflex, which it is. It's anger is not a choice with misophonia; it's a reflex. And because it strengthens with natural experience, if you just try to endure, you're going to make it worse. So one of the strategies is good strategic avoidance. So if you're going to be working in your home and there's car doors slamming and people playing music outside, then you need to protect yourself from triggers. Now, sound coming through the walls is a very low frequency, it's low frequency sound. The walls strip out the high frequencies. So you can use a noise app. The one I'm most familiar with is White Noise by TMSOFT. And you want to use some thunder in there, some low frequency rumbling in the noise. It's good. It's a good sound for you, right? It needs to be a good sound for you. But having that low frequency rumbling, when you hear an extra outside sound, it's low frequency, it fits right in with it, and therefore it can avoid triggering you. You can also, if you need to, use earbuds and ear muffs over the ear protection. And with that, I worked with a man who was disabled by misophonia. He's one of the few people who actually was receiving government disability for his misophonia.
Okay.
And I mean, he had when he submitted it to the U.S. government, he had like a 1-inch tall stack of papers from therapists and doctors and everything. And he wanted to do woodwork in his garage, but his neighbor father-in-law lived with them, and this elderly older man, as a hobby, did yard work. So he was out with a lawnmower every day and with the leaf blower every day, and that was a trigger for this man. So he couldn't even go into his garage because of his misophonia. So he used the earbuds underneath with the noise app playing and the ear muffs,
like this,
the sound ear protectors. No, not those. Like those only. See, those are headphones, right?
Yes.
They're headphones, or they're blocking. No, those are blocking, right? Those are earmuffs.
Yeah.
Correct.
So,
but they're not headphones. No wires to them.
No, both. It's with ANC, active noise cancelling.
Okay, so
yeah.
Okay, so yes, not those.
Yeah. Okay.
Not those. So you would use something even better than those, like the ones for shooting guns or working in very noisy environments. They're just a noise. They're super noise blocker with the earbuds underneath. Or you can use those with earplugs and something like these little earplugs that these are made for wearing. The cylinders are made for wearing all day long in industrial environments. And so you use something like the earplug with the Bose, with the noise turned up onto maximum, so your ears are protected, and you won't hear anything. Now, there is one problem with that. The problem is that you receive some sound through your jawbone. So one man used the jawbone conducting headphones, aftershocks, with the earmuffs, and he played thunder and rain sounds, but that low frequency, and he totally stopped his triggering to this low frequency, cars that go by that you actually even feel it in your chest, and it totally stopped his triggering. So one thing is the ability to get away from the triggers when you need to. If you're going to be doing work, if you're going to be doing schoolwork or reading, you're not going to be able to tolerate prolonged triggers. Okay. So the next thing, though, is to try to in other times that you're not trying to really focus and concentrate, where you're just living, is use some good noise in your room, a box fan, a noise machine, the white noise app playing through Bluetooth speakers, something to kind of fill your world with sounds, and add that sound in. You know, one of the original treatment for misophonia by audiologists was a little sound generator device, and these now hook up to your cell phone. And so having a little bit of noise coming into your life continually really reduces the severity of the triggers.
Okay.
But I would say, but getting rid of the reflex makes it a lot better.
Yeah, I believe, yeah. But I think it takes more time to get rid of this reflex. I think
it does. It typically takes 2, 3, 6, 7 months.
Yeah. Okay. The next question is a little bit connected to the question before. So, what is your suggestion to deal with situations where we cannot escape instead of fighting? We cannot flight and we cannot fight. So,
but it depends on the severity of your misophonia, Patrick.
Yeah.
There are people that should avoid situations where they cannot escape. That they should go into the situation. If, for example, you trigger to chewing sounds and you're going to be out in the public, and you're going to be with people who may be chewing, one of the things that Marsha Johnson suggested is have something like corn nuts, which is a snack that's very hard, that's crunchy, that you can eat your own corn nuts whilst the other people are doing what they're doing. And that, if you're making the sound, then that helps a lot. But there are also people who are so explosive that they really should avoid the situation. Or go in your little pouch or woman in her purse, have your earplugs, your headphones, your noise to play or something, because it's extremely unpleasant. I mean, it's not just unpleasant. When you're triggered, Patrick, I don't know what you experience. I've never been triggered. I just know it's horrible.
It is.
And so
it is.
Right. So really, you want to have a plan for when I go into this situation, how am I going to handle it? Am I going to go to the bathroom? Am I going to have earbuds on? I had a teenager who was going to have a special dinner with her grandmother, religious kind of dinner. And of course, grandma would not understand earbuds, but she was a young lady with long hair. She didn't have the Bluetooth ones, but she ran the headphones up her back of her shirt and plugged them in, hair down, and she could adjust the noise to make it a manageable situation. So you really want to make a plan in advance and have some way that you do not get stuck in that situation.
Okay. The next question is also connected. What can we do if we trigger ourselves? That was a question from my from my Instagram channel, from the community. What can we do if we trigger ourselves?
That's a really difficult situation. And I don't have a good answer. Sequent repatterning hypnotherapy by Chris Pearson is a very good treatment for misophonia that deals with the emotional reactions. But I don't have a good answer for that. And one of the things that as a behaviorist that I'm supposed to do is not make things up. Right? We're supposed to go by what we actually have information on. But let me back up and say, okay, if you trigger yourself, then probably your anxiety level is way too high. So you should probably try intense progressive muscle relaxation. You should try something to bring down your reactivity so that your explosiveness is down. Maybe that will help.
Yeah, okay.
And use noise. And basically, if you're triggering yourself, then have some noise in the room so that you don't, it's not a silence and you're hearing yourself breathe.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, what can people do or to practice more self-care, or how can people do more self-care in general?
Would you guess that I'm a proponent of progressive muscle relaxation?
I mean something like meditation, exercising, yoga, something like this.
So instead of meditation, which is good for the moment, which brings you down, progressive muscle relaxation does the same, is the same benefit as meditation, but in the process, you're developing the skill of relaxing on demand. So, although progressive muscle relaxation is not quite as just take a break and relax and meditate, there's some effort to it. The benefits are greater. If you're spending 15 minutes a day doing mindful meditation, you'd be better off to spend 15 minutes a day doing progressive muscle relaxation. You get a better long-term benefit from that. So relaxation, eating right. There was a push by one person that was going to, the cure for everyone's misophonia, and it included avoiding foods that you react to. So if I eat bananas and strawberries mixed together, I feel bad. It's just the way my body doesn't tolerate that. So I should avoid that. So any food that makes you feel unpleasant, lethargic, anything, just avoid it. So eat foods that your body responds well to. Get enough sleep. Get some exercise. The normal health self-care things are beneficial for people with misophonia.
So in my experience, I fully agree. Definitely, it's diet, it's exercising, meditating, and in general, it's everything that affects my well-being. So
yes.
Yeah.
Anything that increases your level of wellness and well-being will reduce your misophonia.
Okay.
Right. Anything which is going to harm your wellness and well-being, like a hangover, increases your misophonia.
Okay. Let me check my catalog. So I can skip this question. I think this holistic approach is very useful for dealing with misophonia, like, as we said, diet, exercising, meditating, sport, whatever. The next question from the community was, do you think misophonia will find its way into the ICD classification? And when?
So the ICD is a medical classification. The DSM is the psychological classification. I think it will go into the DSM, not the ICD. And I'm just going to guess maybe 5 years. I'm just going to guess at that because one, we need to know what misophonia is in order to specify it well enough to put it into the classification, like the DSM. There's one word out there that bothers me, and it's misokinesia, proposed by Schroeder and his group in 2013. The problem is that misokinesia sounds like a different condition than misophonia. But in reality, the young lady that got me into this had misophonia, misokinesia, and what do you call it? Miso-olfactory? I don't know. That she was, what do you call it when somebody's triggered by a taste or a touch? So any sensory input can trigger the reaction. So I like to think of misophonia as a conditioned aversive reflex disorder. And it can come from any sensory input. But I believe right now there is enough confusion, and some of it is intentional, about what misophonia is, that it may be 10 years before it makes it into the DSM.
And then misophonics, I don't know, what's the right term in English? Misophones?
I don't know that there is a right term. I
Googled it, but I didn't find
people with misophonia.
yeah, okay. And then people with misophonia get official diagnosis after the DSM entry, you mean, or what? So what is the benefit if there is any entry in an official catalog? What is the benefit?
The biggest benefit, Patrick, that I know is that official catalog is taught in every graduate psychology course for psychologists. Therefore, it will be documented, and every graduating psychologist, marriage and family therapist, counsel, licensed professional counselor will know this is misophonia. It's a real thing, and this is what it is. I mean, right now, if it was in the DSM, it wouldn't make people would be more aware of it, but you would still go to your local psychologist, and they may provide standard exposure and response prevention, which is a treatment for OCD, because there are people who say that misophonia is a subset of OCD, and so we should treat it like OCD, which is absolutely incorrect.
Okay. Two last questions, Tom.
Okay.
A little bit a look into the future. What is your next project? I've seen that you wrote a second edition of the of your book, Overcoming.
Right.
Yeah.
I have. Well, I guess my current project is the Misophonia muscle relaxation training app.
Yeah.
It was released about a year ago. We've had some improvements. I've had a request to put foreign languages in it, so we're now revising the app so that we can incorporate Portuguese and German into the app, and Spanish. So that's kind of my current project. I do feel that I need a revision I need a third edition of the book, Understanding and Overcoming Misophonia. And this isn't to people with misophonia, but the muscle relaxation training is very beneficial, I think, for people with anxiety, PTSD, etc. And tinnitus. It looked like it would also be beneficial for that. So I'm going to try to make that app available to those communities. But I think for misophonia, my current projects are getting the muscle relaxation training out for different languages, and writing some journal articles, some case studies that will illustrate that misophonia truly is a conditioned aversive reflex disorder. That if anyone in the misophonia research community would just even challenge that theory and say, I'm going to go do research to prove that Dozier's understanding of misophonia is wrong, that would get it into the research and the work we're doing. Right now, it's just ignored by the research community. So I want to get some articles out, some case studies that will help drive home that point.
Okay, yeah, I think your definition of CARD is more precisely than misophonia, misokinesia, whatever. So there is the reflex definition in it, and I think this is a very good way to talk about misophonia. That that this reaction is a reflex. This is very, very important to understand for me as misophoniac, I don't know, misophonic, and for others that I talk to.
And if people will globally with misophonia will just try to relax, it can make a big difference. So rather than allowing the trigger giving in and just ramping up, just trying to relax after a trigger. The man who, I didn't invent this, a man with misophonia taught me to do about this. He had done progressive muscle relaxation as a teenager because he had anxiety. And here he is 35 years later with misophonia, and he's triggered and he relaxes after a trigger to shorten the reaction. So that may be one of your answers, is that when you're in an inescapable situation, relax and say relax. Of course, that's easier to say than do. But then by relaxing before the triggers, he's actually eliminated his misophonia. So he's the man who taught this to me.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So Tom, do you have any final words for my Misophoniehilfe community?
Well, yeah, I think one of the things I want to say is that this today is not forever. For the vast majority of people with misophonia, one, existing treatments work. Two, if you will just relax and understand that you're not going crazy. This is just a accidental reflex, that relaxing and engaging in life in a little bit lower state can be very beneficial. And so have the hope that, and that's why I, have put the book out, and that's why I'm trying to help people understand that you're not going crazy. This is a simple accidental reflex. And if you can relax and take care of yourself, you can actually bring your misophonia down over time.
Yeah, fully.
How about you, Patrick? What's your experience?
Yes, fully agree. Your book was a game changer for me. I bought it 5 years ago for my birthday, and then I had a name for this for the suffer, and I had to, I had a chance to understand myself a little bit better, and to think about some strategies, how to cope situations, and that's why I wrote a book as well. Ich hasse Geräusche, I hate sounds, and your book was the inspiration for me. So I love your book very, very much, and thank you very much for writing this book. It was really definitely a game changer for my whole life. Since then, it's getting better and better.
Well, I'll say thank you so much. That's exactly why I did it. And that's the message. The message is, do not give up, do not surrender to the turmoil that misophonia causes. Move forward, relax, do things to take care of yourself, and your misophonia can gradually decay rather than continuing to ramp up.
Okay, I think this is a great last word to close this interview. Tom, I really thank you very much for giving me the chance to talk about misophonia with you, and stay healthy, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Patrick. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you.
Ja, schön, dass du das Video bis zum Ende durchgeguckt hast. Wie immer findest du noch weitere Links in der Videobeschreibung zu meinem kostenlosen Buch, zum Beispiel Ich hasse Geräusche. Die Übersetzung zu dem Interview wirst du auch in meinem Blog finden, beziehungsweise werde ich das Ganze auch auf Instagram veröffentlichen. Ich danke dir für deine Aufmerksamkeit und lass dem Video auch gerne einen Daumen nach oben da, beziehungsweise ein Abo, dass du kein weiteres Video mehr verpasst. In diesem Sinne, ich wünsche dir alles Gute und viel Erfolg. Bis dann, dein Patrick.